Hi guys, this is Jenny with Jenny Joy Soap, and I'm coming to you today with a tutorial about how to make your own DIY food wraps using organic piñon pine resin from Jenny Joy Soap and jojoba oil and organic beeswax. So I've had several customers asking me questions about how to do this with the piñon pine resin. They've read other tutorials on the web about the process, and so I thought today I would actually go through that with you and give you some shortcuts and tips about how to make this work so your project's successful. So we begin by having several of the ingredients and a scale on hand to be able to measure everything out. I also have already pre-washed the fabric that I chose to use for today, and the recipe says it will cover 4 squares that are 14 inches by 14 inches. Also, you'll need to have a disposable brush that you can throw away or possibly use again when you're finished, a couple of wooden chopsticks for stirring, and also parchment paper, as well as an old cookie sheet. So I have the squares pre-washed. You can use cotton or muslin fabric. You could also use a fabric that has a print on it if you like. I have chosen to use a pinking shears to go around all the edges of the fabric so that there are less loose ends. And you could even sew them together if you like instead. It's just a preference, and a personal preference. So the parchment paper I've just purchased at the local store, and it's going to be placed on the bottom of the cookie sheet. And then the fabric that we're going to use for today, that we've already pre-washed, will be placed on top of this. Once the mixture is heated up and blended together, we're going to be taking the brush and applying it to the fabric and then placing it in the oven for about 7 to 8 minutes. We'll just keep our eyes on it while it is in the oven. We want to make sure that it's just melted and incorporated into all the fabric, and we'll check on it after it's baked for about that time to see if there are any extra pockets of resin or wax that are in excess on it. We'll want to brush those out and turn the fabric over a second time to do the bottom. And when we replace it back into the oven, it should be just briefly to melt those places and then removed. It can be hung up on a rack. You can use a metal hanger if you like with clothespins to let it air dry. And then these can be used over and over again. Basically just needs to be gently washed with a mild soap using warm water, not hot. The hot water would cause the beeswax and resin to significantly break down, so you want to try to remain using the water at a medium temperature. And the ingredients that I have purchased for this, I have a local supplier for organic beeswax here in Kingman, Arizona that I use. And I've also just purchased jojoba oil for some other projects that I've been working on through Amazon.com, but you can certainly use any source you like. You could also use, instead of this recycled glass container, you could also use a mason jar if you like, which might be a good option for you if you're making a lot of them, to have a wide mouth top, and also a container that can be sealed again if you decide you have extra ingredients left over and you want to save this for the next time you do the project. It might make it much easier. And then just a scale to be able to measure out in ounces for the ingredients. So this particular recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of beeswax, 2 tablespoons of pine resin, which comes in the container from Jenny Joy's soap, already pre-measured, 1 tablespoon of jojoba oil, and as I said, it covers approximately 4 squares that are 14 by 14 inches that are cotton muslin or cotton fabric. And then once we have all of those ingredients ready, we can go ahead and spread them onto the fabric. So this measurements I'm going to take now will be taken over and placed into our bain-marie to be heated. And then once the resin and the oil and the beeswax are combined together, we can start the process of brushing. So I'll be back with you shortly. I have to take some measurements here, and then we can get started with heating up the resin. I started earlier today with a tutorial about how to use a bain-marie. And so I have on the stovetop currently right now heating up the resin. We basically have just taken a small pot of water and placed a small custard dish inside of that with probably about 1 inch deep of water inside the pot. This is going to begin to heat the resin up. You could also place the resin actually on a lower temperature inside the pot. You want to make sure that it's not bubbling. The water shouldn't, come over the sides into the resin container. It's really best to do the heating process this way as opposed to other sources. I would not recommend putting the resin inside a microwave of any kind. It is flammable, and so it needs to have open areas to be able to work with it. It is very safe to work with, but obviously because it's flammability, you would not want to use it in an area that's enclosed. It's not harmful to breathe, but the combustibility part of it is not safe in a microwave. So this is what I would recommend. And you can always check out other tutorials online. This is a pretty safe and typical way to use the resin for most people who are using it for DIY processes. If you don't have a pot of this size, you can also use a larger pot and purchase, or maybe you have a silicone mat at home. They also come in a round shape, which works much better than my square does. I have also a round, not here at the house, but back at my shop. And just place this inside of here along with the container with the resin in it. Like I said, just make sure that you're not heating it too quickly. It probably will take roughly 15 to 20 minutes for the resin to heat up, and then it can be transferred into the glass container with the beeswax next. Once those two are incorporated, then you'll add the jojoba oil last, and then the following steps would be to brush those contents onto the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and take a short break so I can do some measurements for you, and then I'll come back with the second video. If you like our videos and want to know more information about us, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe and hit like. And if you have questions about any of the processes for the tutorials that we're doing, please feel free to comment below. Send us your questions. We love to help our customers to be successful, and we hope you have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.